This is the Beesotted Pride of West London podcast, and I'm sitting here in the virtual joint with, hold on a second, I'm on my own. This is actually the first time I think anyone in just over 1,000 Beesotted podcasts that we've actually done it on our own. And the reason why, we've just recorded our 1,000th and our 1,001 podcast. Check it out on prideofwest.london. Some fantastic memories there. And everyone got a bit drunken and a bit excited, and they've vacated the camp. And there's no one left. It's just me, Billy the Bee, here. Sitting down here, just reflecting on the last 1,000 podcasts, the last 9 years, and also looking forward to the match against Burnley on Saturday. So what we're going to do is, I thought, tell you something, we ain't going to go into a long thing this time. We're just going to give you a mini pod. We're just going to bring you the bare bones of what we're going to do to look forward to that Burnley game as well. But before I do that, we've got to look back to the 1,000th podcast. Like I said to you, there's a whole crew of us sat around in the Castle Pub in Ealing. We had a right good laugh, and we chatted about the last 9 years. We chatted about Championship and getting promoted to the Championship and all sorts of funny things that happened in the Championship, and then the pandemic came, and then all the strangeness of the pandemic and how it changed the football fabric and also the podcasting fabric as well. And then our promotion, we didn't actually mention the Fulham game when we lost in the pandemic. We just glossed over that one, went straight to the promotion, and then afterwards we came in talking about the Arsenal game, how we beat Arsenal at that first game of the season, then how we've actually ended up now as a established Premier League side. I'm saying that with my fingers crossed, because obviously we've had a little run which has been a little bit tricky quite recently. So like I said to you, check that out on prideofwest.london. There's 2 episodes there, 1,000 and the 1,000+1 podcast, which is all good. But just coming back to that, before that, we had a game before that a couple of weeks ago. We played Man United, and everything was looking hunky-dory. Scored a goal, and we were looking fairly in control of that one. Norgard knocked the ball into the back of the net. I think it was Norgard. It was a couple of weeks ago, and I tell you something, so much has happened since then, I don't even know. But then 2 goals, Man United threw the kitchen sink at us in the last, injury time, basically, the last 4 minutes of injury time, and they scored 2 goals. My argument about this, I'll say to you that 9 times out of 10, probably 99 times out of 10, they will throw the kitchen sink and nothing will happen. But this time it happened. They actually managed to score 2 goals. A lot of frustration for the people who went down to that game, because obviously they felt they were going to get their first win in Man United since before the war, I think it was. But that wasn't quite to happen. We decided not to do a post-match podcast after that, because that post-match podcast would have been our 1,000th podcast, and we didn't want to go out on a 1,000th podcast on a low. So we just chilled out from that, went bang straight into the 1,000th on a big bang, and now we're coming back. We're talking about the Burnley game. Not much else to talk about the Man United game at the moment now, because we're going to have the Gowler a little bit later, who's going to give us a tactical and statistical lowdown on that Man United game. But what we're going to do, we're going to go over to JB, because JB, he was talking about the fact that, tell you something, right, we might currently only have 7 points, but it's not all that bad, because we have had seasons in the past where, to be quite honest with you, we haven't racked up that many points at the beginning of the season, and things haven't turned out too badly. So we're going to go to JB to listen to his facts and his funk.
Are you ready for this? I told you it was coming. Woo! JB, and he's ready to stock it to you one time. Get it!
Hello, Jonathan Birchall back again. With 8 games gone and only 7 points on the board, it's easy to forget that we've been here before. Back in 2017-18, Dean Smith's second full season in charge, after 8 games we only had points from 4 draws. We just sold Dean, Cullen and Jota to Birmingham. Players already missing games were Dalsgaard, Henry, Woods, Vibe, McEachran, Josephson and Canis, and we'd not seen the injured Alan Judge or Lewis McLeod at that stage of the season. But then in our next 8, we won 5 and drew 3, before going on to finish 9th in the Championship. Since 3 points for a win was introduced in 1981, that 2017-18 season was our worst return from the opening 8 games. This season has been equal 4th lowest after 8 games, although none of those 4 poor starts went on to be one of the 3 relegation seasons we've had in that 43-year period. In the following season, of course, Dean Smith had moved on, and on the 20th of October 2018, Thomas Frank was in charge for the first time, in a game which ended in a 1-0 defeat to Bristol City. His team selection that day was hampered by injuries, including to Josh Da Silva and Rico Henry. It was also the start of a run where we took 4 points from a possible 30. Of all our managers or head coaches since we joined the Football League in 1920, that was the worst start in the league for any of them. After some of our squad collected more international caps last weekend, it was back in 1934 that Idris Hopkins became the first player to win an international cap whilst on our books, when he was selected by Wales. In his last Brentford game before his debut, he celebrated by scoring one of the goals at Griffin Park in a 6-1 win against Burnley.
So there you go, JB Fats and Funk talking about the Bees and struggling at the start of the season. Dean Smith's early days, we remember that. I mean, forget that Dean Smith's early days, Thomas Frank's early days, as we said. You know, he was toast as far as a lot of people are concerned. First 10 games, couldn't win for toffee as it was, but you know, the signs were there that we were going to do the business, and just goes to show what's happened. So like I said to you have to have a little bit of faith. Coming back about having a little bit of faith, we had faith that we might get 3 points at Old Trafford, and it wasn't quite to be. What we're going to do is we're going to go over to the Gowler of Bees Breakdown, because he's going to give us the statistical and tactical lowdown of that Man United game. But then what he's also going to do, he's going to look forward to the Burnley game.
Hey, this is Jacob Gowler from Bees Breakdown, here to unfortunately do a Manchester United review and then do a Burnley preview. So Manchester United created 1.43 XG and Brentford created 0.95 XG, but the majority of United's XG was actually in stoppage time. They recorded 0.73 XG in the last 7 minutes. I thought that Brentford did a good job baiting United into pressuring their center backs, which freed up Janelt and Norgard, who were then able to play those long passes into wide areas, which really just let us progress the ball easily. I think that Brentford also did a good job on set plays. They created 0.62 XG from those situations, which was mostly just those long throws where United kind of let the ball bounce around too much in the box. I thought out of possession, Brentford did well, preventing United from getting into dangerous areas for most of the match. As the match progressed, United was stretching out Brentford's low block, using combination play on the wings, and then loading up the back post. Some standout players. Pinnock recorded 19 clearances. He actually leads the Premier League with 59 total clearances this season. Pinnock and Collins both won all of their aerial duels, a total of 6. And then Jensen had 0.42 XG buildup, which basically just means that he was heavily involved in any Brentford possession that led to a shot. I really thought that Brentford's depth was tested, and the long injury list only left the Bees with 5 players on the bench having played in the Premier League. Alright, now on to that Burnley preview. So Burnley are 18th in the table, and they've created the second lowest XG at 6.5 compared to Brentford's 13.8. They've also let in 20 goals on 14.7 XGA, so they're really underperforming there with the worst save percentage in the Premier League at 61.7%. They've also only generated 146 shot creating actions, which is the third lowest in the Premier League, and they're relying on their captain Josh Brownhill to create those chances. They're also averaging 48.8% possession, which is next to Brentford's 49%. And they've recently been using a 4-3-3, but they also have come out in that 4-2-3-1 earlier in the year. So definitely look for them to build in wide areas. They use those wide players and then cut inside and look to shoot from distance. They actually have the second longest average shot distance. One other interesting thing I found was that Burnley are 18th for percentage of shots on target with 27.1%. But Brentford are 19th with 27%. And last season, Brentford finished first for the percentage of shots on target with 36.8%.
So Burnley come to New Griffin Park for the first time since Phil Bird, the Burnley commentator, sat in our commentary box. And he sat there when we scored our second goal, which basically it kind of sealed our stay in the Premier League, in our first season in the Premier League. And we were very happy, all the fans, and they got up and they started dancing and singing around, and the game wasn't even over. And Phil Bird, the commentator, wasn't very happy, and he very famously talked about the fact that we were celebrating like we won the European Cup. The clip went viral and it was hilarious. Anyway, so I think he's going to be coming down again. Hopefully he's going to well, hopefully he doesn't say the same thing this time. Well, hopefully he does say the same thing again, but we shall see. But like I said to you, it was Sean Dyche who was the manager then. I think it was one of his last games as manager. JB again came up with a really interesting fact, the fact that Sean Dyche has played against us 6 times. He's beaten us 5 times and he has lost only once. And I actually saw Sean Dyche after the Forest game. I don't know if I mentioned this on the podcast as well, and I chatted to him after the Forest game because he actually lives in one of the pubs that I drink in after the Forest game because, like I said to you, I stay at the Forest game. And he drink in one of the pubs above that, and I sat to him and I said to him, mate, you did us like a right kipper, didn't you? And he says, yeah, you mean that we were good and you were shite? And I thought, okay, that's quite frank, Sean, but maybe you were right. And then we talked about the previous game when he was at Burnley, when they played very well. They were 3-0 up within half an hour, and they were playing the football that I didn't expect Burnley to play. And like I said to you, respect to Burnley for playing that game, and they did us like a kipper. And we came away from that game, and all the Brentford fans just put their hands up and they'd say fair play. And Sean Dyche said to me, fair play. Not a lot of people give us credit, but to be fair, you Brentford fans are actually giving us credit because you are football people and you see football as it is. But Sean Dyche isn't at Burnley anymore. He's not at Burnley anymore as well. We've got the company who Burnley absolutely smashed the league last season. But they're finding it a little bit trickier this season, maybe because they're trying to play the big boys at their own game. Anyway, we'll find out if that is true because, like I said to you, the Gowler has given us the statistical lowdown on them. But we're going to go to Burnley, to Turfcast, and we're going to go to Joe from Turfcast because he's going to tell us all he knows about Burnley.
Hello everyone, Joe Redman here from the Burnley YouTube channel and podcast Turfcast, just giving my thoughts ahead of this weekend's match down at the GTEC Community Stadium, Brentford versus Burnley. I'm looking forward to this one. I've got tickets, I'm coming down. I don't know why I've bothered getting tickets again because, I do, because it's a nice ground in a nice area with a lot of good pubs, and when I went down last time it was a very good atmosphere amongst the home fans and the away fans. There were no comments, no people, no silly people. I was going to swear them, but I didn't know what the rules were. So there were none of that. So I remember when we got the tickets again, and my partner were at work all day, I just thought to myself, you know what, I'll take my little boy. But the last time we were in the Premier League, I left that match pretty much thinking, there's no way we're going to get out of this. We're just not playing well. We're not doing anything. So it wasn't a good experience the last time. Hoping for a better one this time. And I think it may well be a very good game. I'm not sure if we'll be good enough to get a result with the injuries that we have, but of course you've got injuries as well. So it's going to be a good game, and I'm expecting goals. Last season for us, though, we're coming to this one very, very confident because of last season. Absolutely dominated the Championship. You've got to give it a 10 out of 10. Like, it doesn't get any better than what we did last season. The only way that it could have been better is if we beat Reading's record of, which I think is 106 points. And it did look like we were going to do that at one point, if I'm honest. And just digressing a little bit, I think Leicester may be the team to finally do that this year. But enough of the actual lower leagues. We'll talk about what we did in that league last season. But yeah, look at what we did, man. Look, we absolutely bossed the Championship. We went from playing a certain style of football under Sean Dyche to a far more entertaining, brand of football under Vincent Kompany. And we did that, within the first 10 games. That the reason why we didn't beat that points record of Reading's is because we started slowly, and it took us about 10, 12 games to really get into our stride, because Kompany came in and changed the whole ethos of the football club. He changed the entire way we play. He changed everything. 16 players left, including Nathan Collins and Ben Mee, who you guys will know very well, and of course James Tarkowski, Nick Pope, Ashley Westwood. A lot of senior players left, and so did the manager. So to be able to turn that round so quickly and have us dominate the Championship so easily over the course of the season was nothing short of fantastic from Vincent Kompany and his men. And it's a season that will live long in my memory. I've seen Burnley achieve a lot more than what they did last season. I've seen us finish 7th. I've seen us win the Championship before. I've seen us play in Europe. All right, we didn't get very far in Europe, but I watched my town team where I'm from, of just 90,000 people, the team that when I was born were playing in what is now League 2, play against Olympiacos in a competitive match in Athens. That's just ridiculous. But last season is my favourite ever season following Burnley. It was absolutely fantastic. And it's not just the Championship and how well we did in the league. It's the way we won it as well. Beating Blackburn 3-0 at the Turf, absolutely smashing them. Beating Preston 3-0 at the Turf, absolutely smashing them. Then going to win the league at Blackburn. it's just what stuff like that just won't happen again. Like it was fantastic, and you know, I may have spent too long talking about last season on the preview for Saturday's game, but it's just a season that will live long in the memory. And like I said, I've got a little boy. I'm taking him on Saturday. Like I said, I cannot wait to show him the videos of last season and the videos that I created and stuff like that when he's older. Brilliant season, and really enjoyed it. But of course, it's not really transpired into this season yet. I was quietly confident that we would be okay this season, and I still do think we survive. We'll get onto that, I'm sure, at some point, but I do still think that we will survive. But after 8 games, I didn't expect us to be in this position. But when you look at the teams that we played, Man City, Tottenham, Villa, Newcastle, you know, all these teams that are either in and around the top 4 or are trying to break into it in the likes of Villa. And even your Man Uniteds and Chelsea's, they're not the teams they used to be, but they've still got quality players. So, you know, we've had a very tough start. The only teams that we've played who are going to be in and around us are Nottingham Forest and Luton, and we picked up 4 points, and they were both away from home. So I think we'll be all right. I think we get points against the teams in and around us. Not all of them, but most of them in most of the games. And I think that's what drags us over the line this season. So it's kind of like last season in a way. We're starting slowly, but I do think we come good. But one of the things I did say at the start of the season, because I did predict us to finish somewhere between 11th and 14th. I may have reined that in a little bit, and then I will be like, well, maybe 15th, 16th, something like that, 14th to 16th. But it's taking its time because we brought in a lot of new players. And for all the credit that Vincent Kompany deserves for turning it around last season so quickly, he does deserve a bit of criticism this season because I do think he's making some mistakes. We obviously lost Ian Martin at the start of the season. He went back to Chelsea. He was instrumental for us last season. The obvious thing would be to play Charlie Taylor at left back because he's the only left back we actually have at the club. But instead of doing that, Vincent Kompany spent the first 5-6 games playing centre backs there and right backs there, and it would just, you can see what he's trying to do because he's got a certain system where these left backs and right backs, they'll slot into centre mid and they'll slot into centre back when not in possession or in possession. And he couldn't get that balance because last season we had Connor Roberts on the right and he was slotting into the middle while Ian Martin was bombing on. But this season we just don't have that balance. And I think he was desperate to try and find that balance again. And he just didn't do it. He just couldn't find it, and he just kept putting square pegs in round holes and making mistakes. And he's making a mistake, in my opinion, as well, with the current situation with the goalkeeper. Arianet Muric was fantastic last season for us. We bought James Trafford, who will be brilliant for us eventually, and will probably be the England goalkeeper in 3-4 years, but he's not ready yet. And for some reason, Vincent Kompany is sticking by him, and I will be bringing Muric back in. He was fantastic last season and deserves his chance in the Premier League. But I'm happy with him. There's been a few rumours that, you know, well, not rumours, but that, you know, you get the odd account on Twitter that's usually faceless who says, "Oh, we need to get rid of him if we don't beat Brentford and Bournemouth." It's, calm down. I'd be exactly the same as what I did the year we first came up with Dyche. If we get relegated with Kompany, stick by him, kick on. But in terms of the squad, I think going forward we are fantastic. At the back we are pretty horrendous. It is that simple at the minute. Midfield can be non-existent without the ball at times, but with the ball they can create some decent chances. I'm very happy with Lyle Foster. I think he's a brilliant addition to the squad. We brought him in January and he didn't really hit the ground running in the Championship actually, but he's done very, very well in the Premier League. Luca Koleosho, he's come in from, I think it was Espanyol B, like someone really random like that, and he's hit the ground running. He's fantastic. We've got Zeki Amdouna, who's a little bit out of form admittedly, but he's very, very good. I've never seen a Burnley player keep the ball as well as him since Stephen Defoe. And we've just got some very good players going forward. It's at the back where we've looked suspect, and I think it's more the system. It's not that I don't like the system. I just do think it is a little bit of the system exposing us a little bit. But we have had some injuries as well. Jordan Bayer's currently injured. I'll be very surprised to see him on Saturday. And he is our best defender, in my opinion. Al Dakil is injured as well. So we could genuinely just pick someone out of the stands at the minute to put at centre back. We are getting quite low. It'll probably be something like Delquart and O'Shea, who I'm not really confident on, to be honest, with Charlie Taylor at left back and Connor Roberts at right back, and probably Trafford in net, which is not something I do. But the squad looks a little bit unbalanced at the minute, but I think we can hurt teams going forward. And it's interesting because I do, like I said, I've been down to Brentford before, and obviously you were the team that we actually battered, the only team that we battered the year we went down, obviously at the Turf. I think it was the first win of the season, wasn't it, 4-0? So I remember going down to that game, even though you'd done quite well that season, being quietly confident, like, well, we battered them already, like, why wouldn't we? But in that game, the 2-0 loss, it was a tough one to take, that one. Not because we lost to Brentford or anything like that. I know how frustrating it can be as a fan of a small club myself when people go, we should be beating these. That's not why it was frustrating. It was just we didn't lay a glove on you. We didn't even try. Like, yes, we contained you quite well until the 75th minute or whatever it was when you got the first goal. But we just sat back and just said, right, come at us. And then you're thinking, well, counter attack them then, or whatever. And we just didn't do anything. It was a proper typical Sean Dyche performance, but it used to work sometimes under Dyche, and then towards his last 18 months there were just too many performances like that where it was just sit back, wait for the opposition to come at us, and then you'd expect us to counter, and we just never did. And it was one of them, and I left, I nearly said Griffin Park then, but I left the G-Tech Stadium that day thinking, yeah, we're going down. But obviously Brentford have come on loads since then. It's really good to see. I love it when I see smaller clubs upsetting the apple cart, and obviously you beat Man United 4-0 last season, had some other famous results last season. That one sticks in my mind because I remember Ben Mee scored a header, and obviously I love Ben Mee. I'm hoping to see him on Saturday, if I'm honest, not like from a personal point of view, but I want to see him play. But just looking at your injuries before I recorded this, and it's unlikely that I will do, which is a shame. But yeah, I love Ben Mee, and of course Nathan Collins as well, another former Claret. I don't dislike Nathan, but it's different. Ben Mee's a Burnley legend and stuff like that, whereas Nathan was only here for one season, then left as soon as we got relegated out of nowhere to Wolves at first, wasn't it? Yeah, and then you guys have signed him in this summer, I believe. But yeah, really looking forward to seeing Ben. Nathan, I'm indifferent on him. I'm not too bothered. But one of the main talking points I do remember from that game was the Phil Bird and what's his name now? I follow him on Twitter and he follows me, and I can't remember him. He's called Andy, I think. The co-commentator. You know what? And it went viral at the time. I can't remember if it was you guys that shared it. I think it was, to be honest. But it went viral at the time, and I agree. Their comments do come across as very salty and very bitter. But I think you've got to remember in that moment they would have been very salty and very bitter. If I was very salty and very bitter in that moment, there's no way I'd have been enjoying myself sat there where them two were. They're both really nice lads. I saw Phil in Aldi the other day actually, because cost of living crisis. We all shop at Aldi now, don't we? I've met Andy a couple of times as well, and like I said, we follow each other on Twitter. But it was so out of character for both of them, especially Phil. Phil is very reserved. And it was just so out of character for both of them. But I do sympathise with them. If I'd have been in and amongst that after that defeat, I would probably have been just as bitter, if not more bitter. I could have even been swinging. But I do sympathise with them. But yeah, it was pretty funny. I remember when you shared it and the bitterness had worn off, I watched it back again and I was laughing my head off. But I do sympathise with them. 100% sympathise with them. If we're 3-0 down on Saturday, for example, who knows, you could see something similar, but I hope not for their sake. But yeah, just looking ahead to the game, I'm expecting a lot of goals. I'm expecting two teams going toe-to-toe with each other. Your forward line worries me because of how bad our defence is. You're quite good at creating chances. You've just not really been scoring as much as you probably would have thought. And I think you're in a position where you probably didn't think you would be at the start of the season. Lost some suspect games to Everton. It's interesting to see how you're going to develop now as the course of the season goes on. You could get dragged into it and then you could move away. I think you're one of them teams that if you got dragged into it, people will be surprised, but a few people were surprised last season when the likes of Leicester got dragged into it. Better teams than Brentford have been relegated before. I do think you'll be okay, but I'm expecting this one to be plenty of goals. I'm just glad Ivan Toney's not playing. He really would hurt us, but obviously you've got Mbuemo as well. He's a fantastic player. He worries me a little bit, but it's mainly your chance creation that worries me because you've created a lot of chances this season, and if you continue in that vein of form against us, you'll create chances very, very easily. But I'm going 2-2. Maybe slightly overconfident there with the start that we've had, but my thing for that, I'll point towards the teams in and around us. Your Forests and your Lutons played very well against both of them, especially the first 45 to 50 minutes against Luton where we absolutely dominated them. The second 45 was a little bit, more Luton than we would have liked, but Forest, we played Forest twice actually this season, once in the Cup as well, and we beat them in that one. Over the 180 minutes where we played Forest, we were probably the better side for I've got terrible maths. 3/4 of it. I'm going to talk in minutes then, but 135 minutes of that match, but of the matches, should I say? But yeah, I'm expecting us to be better than we have been this season against you. But my worry is the defence. If Bayer and Al-Dakhil are out, you could create some chances and get some joy forward. But thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you for inviting me on the show. A big fan of Beesotted. We've already had one of your team on our show. If you want to check it out, you can do so. Just go to Turfcast Podcast. It's on YouTube as well, so you can watch it. And yeah, Beesotted's been one of the podcasts that I've always looked to for inspiration. So you guys should be very proud of what you do. It's been a pleasure coming on the show. Good luck for the rest of the season. But as I always say, after Saturday.
So there you go. That was Joe from Turfcast, the Burnley podcast, and he's given us the lowdown, Burnley. So listen, this is it, the end of our little mini pod. Just giving you a little bit of a lowdown before the Burnley game, so that we've got some facts and we've got some figures and we've got a bit of a vibe of what's going to go on that game. Hopefully Bees will get 3 points. I'm going to go for a 2-0 win to the Bees myself. I haven't got anyone else here in the studio with me because, like I said to you, they're still recovering after doing the 1000th podcast. But all I want to say to everybody is thank you very much for listening to us. Thank you for listening to us for our 1000th podcast as well. Hopefully we'll have another 1000 to go as well. Don't forget to, if you like what we do, buy us a beer, beesotted.com/beer. And next week, we're going to be back in the studio before the Chelsea game, and hopefully I'll have the characters back with me. We may even go down the pub again because we enjoyed it so much. Thanks very much for listening. Come on, you bees.